Have you ever been 25? Have you had a career goal or dream you always wanted to reach? If you've ever reached that point, I'm sure you felt relief, success, and happiness. But what if it happened faster than anticipated? You're supposed to do a year of apprenticeship, but instead you're promoted right away. All eyes on you, not totally ready for the role, and oh, by the way, you're getting the call because you're replacing one of the best ever, an idol, who just passed away unexpectedly. This is essentially how Kevin Harvick made his debut as a full-time NASCAR driver, replacing Dale Earnhardt Sr. less than a week after his untimely passing. He wasn't ready, he didn't want to be there. He was fulfilling his lifelong dream, but it was happening for all the wrong reasons. Some people say they thrive under pressure, but under this, how do you make diamonds? Kevin Michael Harvick was born on the 8th of December 1975 in Bakersfield, California. Bakersfield is located in the south end of the San Joaquin Valley. It's hot, it's relatively dry, and it's just a step or two off being classified as desert. Go about an hour east and you can find the Sierra Nevada mountain range with seasonal ski slopes, but go another 3 hours east and you can find the infamous Death Valley. It's big in mining, oil, and farming, with a climate to produce carrots to citrus and almonds. The region is sometimes referred to as Mediterranean California, so how fitting young Kevin had his biggest interest in open-wheeled racing. He was a fan of NASCAR, but he raced karts, and to him and his family, there was no more prestigious racing than IndyCar. Kevin's father, Mike Harvick, was a big fan of racing. When watching NASCAR, Mike was a fan of Ironhead, one of the nicknames for Dale Earnhardt Sr. When watching IndyCar, the Harvicks were fans of Rick Mears, who was also from Bakersfield. As a matter of fact, while karting, Kevin would often compete against Rick's son, Clint. Mike also often worked as a mechanic for local race teams, however full-time he was a firefighter for the Bakersfield Fire Department. Kevin's mother is Jonelle Harvick. She took care of the house, Kevin and his younger sister Amber, and worked as an office clerk at the nearby elementary school for the Standard School District. When it came to racing, Kevin spent most of his time traveling with his father and grandfather. However, his relationship with his father was something that changed over time. It's not something Harvick talks about much, but as Harvick got older, his father's drinking put a big strain on his mother and changed how he and his father interacted. When Kevin took a gamble on his career and stepped outside of the family-ran racing team, it drove a final wedge in their relationship, which even today hasn't really been repaired. There were a lot of different racing options in Bakersfield when Kevin was growing up. However, for club karting, you were supposed to be 8 years old. Kevin received his first kart from his parents as a gift for completing his first year in grade school around age 5 or 6. His first memories in the kart were in a dirt field, just learning gas and brake and left from right, and he ended the day underneath a barbed wire fence. Whether it be from his desire to continue or his father's stubbornness to not allow him to give up on it, they ventured to the local go-kart track to drive for real. Here, Kevin started to fall in love with racing and competed at the local track. He says they had a lie about his age. He was 8 for at least a couple years. In karting, Kevin would compete whenever the family had the financial allowances to do so. There wasn't a lot of extra money, but luckily his father was a very capable mechanic who could make nearly everything they needed. Chassis tubing, kart fenders, or even building engines and transmissions. They worked on the karts together, and around age 10, Kevin had his own checkbook, as he was largely responsible for all the money involved in their racing effort. By this point in time, karting had become more complicated. Kevin had graduated from the local club karting scene and was participating in regional and national series. The dream at this point was IndyCar and the Indy 500. The boy even gave a school presentation in the 5th grade describing his career path as he would inevitably go from karting to the champion of American open-wheeled racing. When his father was not working, Mike would take his son to karting events up and down the West Coast, and when he couldn't, Kevin would travel with his grandfather. He recalls stories from this time in an instance going with his grandfather to race in Kansas. It took the pair an exceptionally long time to get there because his grandfather never went above the speed limit and had to stop at every rest stop in Denny's Diner for a cigarette break. Another instance he recalls starting around age 12 or 13, on the way back from a race he would drive their box van with a cart and his father would sleep in the passenger seat telling him to wake him up if they got pulled over by the police. There were a lot of responsibilities assigned to young Kevin in relation to the racing, but outside of that his childhood was pretty normal. He enjoyed being outdoors and played a variety of sports where he was always competitive. By the time Kevin was entering high school, his father had already built him a late model stock car. Even though the dream was to be an IndyCar, Mike deemed open-wheeled cars as too unsafe for his son, and so his path towards NASCAR was laid down. However, it would still be another year or two before the car would compete, because in the nearby series, drivers had to be at least 16. Kevin raced karts for roughly a decade, racking up numerous race wins and trophies. He earned 7 national championships and 2 Grand National Championships, including being the 1985 and 87 International Kart Federation National Champion. Near the end of Harvick's time in karting, he started school at the North High School in Bakersfield. Throughout this time in school, Kevin says he would never describe himself as a fighter. He wasn't a confrontational person and got along pretty well with others. However, on the racetrack, the attitude was different. His father pushed him towards an aggressive style of racing. If he missed an opportunity, his father would let him know about it. If he was close to winning, he was supposed to do whatever it took to win. If they upset some people, they would settle it after the race. He says his father is a big man, so a little confrontation wasn't something he'd shy away from. Of course, due in part from this style of racing and his inexperience in cars, when he started racing late model stock cars at the local track Mesa Marin, he backed it into the wall in his first race. He wrecked in 6 of his 7 races that year. They did so few races because it took too much time and money to keep repairing the car. 7 was all they could afford. In an effort to keep the family team going, they sold off his father's dream project car for racing funds. The next year, Kevin realized the less he crashed, the more he got to race. On track, he really improved. He only broke 1 fender the whole year and won nearly half of the 14 races that season. In addition, the better he performed, the more financial help they received from businesses wanting to put their logos on a winning car. However, everything wasn't perfect. His father's drinking had really started to put a strain on their family life. Kevin remembers when he won his first late model race, it was the same night his mother had moved everything out of the house.
So you go from, having this moment where you think you've taken another step in your career to, you know that dad's coming home to, he's coming home to nothing. And so
the next year was his senior year at school, and Kevin says he spent most of it at a friend's house instead of at home because it was a better environment. On track, he started the late model season by winning 4 of the first 5 races, then one day came home and found his father had sold the car. He deemed there was nothing left to learn in late models, so he sold that car in order to buy a NASCAR Southwest Series stock car. For the rest of 1994, the Harvick team would compete in a handful of races in the Southwest Series. However, at a race in Northern California, they would meet an investment banker who introduced himself, expressing a desire to help support their team and make this next step up in performance. With financial support in 1995, the Harvicks did all of the races in the Southwest Series, with Kevin getting his first win at Tucson towards the end of the season. That year, they also purchased and prepared a truck chassis, and Kevin made his first start in the Craftsman Truck Series at home track Mesa Marin. In the next year, the goal was to compete in both the Truck Series and the Southwest Series. However, after a couple of months, the cost was too great, and the investment banker that had been helping to fund their team pulled the plug on his finances. Their family couldn't afford running the cars, so for the rest of the year they saved their money and ran 2 more Southwest races and a truck race at their home track. They figured if you have very little money, use it in the places you can make it count the most. Coming towards the end of the summer, there wasn't much racing going on. So Kevin enrolled in school at the Bakersfield Junior College. If he wasn't racing, he would go to school and study architecture. At that time on the West Coast, there was really only one nationally touring team, Spears Motorsport, and Kevin had a friend who worked as a mechanic there. He told Kevin he should come work there and see if he could parlay that into a race drive somehow. After about 6 weeks of being in school, one day Kevin told his mother about the opportunity and expressed how he didn't think school was the right place for him. She encouraged him to chase racing. If it didn't work out, the school would still be there. Kevin applied and got the job as a mechanic, making $25,000 a year, so he moved to an apartment near the Spears shop and went to work. This really drove a bigger rift between him and his father, as Kevin was leaving the family racing team to try and chase bigger and better options. By the end of 1996, Kevin managed to talk the Spears team owner into giving him a race in their Winston West car. It was his first time at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and in a field of 31 cars, he qualified 4th and finished 13th. The following year, he managed to get another couple of runs in the car, and a run in the team's truck ride. Midway through 1997, Harvick managed to convince Wayne Spears to give him another run in the Truck Series. In his race in Kentucky, he ran well, beating the team's other truck. A week later, Wayne had made Kevin the primary driver of their number 75 truck. For 1998, he was going to keep his duties as the main driver for the 75 truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. In addition, in that year's winter heat races in the Winston West Series, he won 2 of the races and then talked the team owner in allowing him to continue to run both series. In the West Series, he was leading the points by mid-season and again convinced Wayne and Connie Spears to keep funding his campaign. It would pay off as he would win the championship with 5 poles, 5 victories, and only 3 finishes outside the top 5 across the 14-race season. Back in the Truck Series, he would get 5 top 10s and 3 top 5 finishes. For 1999, Harvick was selected to be the driver of the Liberty Racing Porter Cable Power Tool truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. The year went pretty well, with Kevin finishing 12th in the championship with 11 top 10s and 6 top 5 finishes. He had 3 runner-up finishes and 1 third place, but was ultimately unable to get his first victory. During this year, he had some major milestones. He bought his first house and met his now wife Delana. His driving had also attracted the attention of NASCAR team owner Richard Childress. He made 2 starts in the ARCA Series that year, for Richard finishing 2nd at Charlotte and 3rd at Talladega. He also made his first start in the NASCAR Busch Grand National Series for Childress. For Y2K, there was discussions for Harvick to drive for Childress full-time in the Busch Series. However, if he wanted to drive for RCR, he needed to buy himself out of his contract with Liberty Racing. So, Harvick borrowed money on his house and paid $200K USD to be able to switch teams. For several months, he and Delana lived off her credit cards. Once the season got underway, he would find himself getting his first victory in the Busch Series by midsummer. He finished the year 3rd in points as Rookie of the Year with 16 top 10s, 8 top 5s, and 3 victories. Towards the end of the year, Harvick had started doing all the testing for Dale Earnhardt Sr. at Childress Racing, as Dale hated doing testing work. Kevin had also taken up duties with the team working with Chevy in car number 51 to develop a new suspension package. While the car ended up being 9/10ths faster around the Indy Oval, it was shot down by Earnhardt and car 51 sat unused. Heading for the next year, Kevin was going to compete in the Busch Series again and make 7 starts in the Cup Series in the number 30 car with American Online as a sponsor. His first start was set to be Atlanta. In the first race of the 2001 NASCAR Cup season at Daytona, company teammate, childhood hero, and the series' most heroic villain would lose his life in a last lap accident. The Wednesday after the incident, Harvick received a call from Childress calling him to a meeting. He said he knew what conversation was coming. Richard told him they wanted him to drive the now vacant car. He said he understood if he didn't want to do it. They had driver Rick Mast lined up if Kevin didn't want it. And Kevin didn't want to do it, but he knew he needed to do it for the company. They agreed they were going to inversely paint the colors on the car and take the first number available for competition. A few days later, 25-year-old Kevin Harvick would make his NASCAR Cup debut in a white number 29. He says they skipped practice and just prepared for the pre-race press conference. The hardest moment of his career was on his first official day. He finished 14th that race, 8th a week later, and then a week after that, driving car 51 he helped develop, won in his 3rd start in the Cup Series at Atlanta, the track where he was supposed to make his debut. As the year continued, he would get 16 top 10s, 6 top 5s, and 2 victories, finishing as Rookie of the Year 9th in points. This year he also won the Busch Series Championship. He says being busy going between multiple series helped distract him from everything that had happened in his career and within the company. The following year, the team would start feeling complications brought on by the sudden switch in drivers. Earnhardt Sr.'s sponsors didn't like Kevin. Team members didn't like how Kevin wanted to do things differently than how Dale had, and this made for a stressful team environment. He said it wasn't until around 2006, when Goodwrench left and Shell and Reese's joined the team, that things started calming down, and it felt like his team. Of course, throughout the rest of his career, Kevin would end up joining Stewart-Haas Racing in 2014 and get his first championship in the Cup Series. Over the years, he's had 60 victories at the Cup level and many other noteworthy feats. Kevin is, however, coming towards the end of his career. At the end of every year, there are discussions of if and when he will retire. He has revealed in interviews that originally he was thinking to retire at the end of 2021, but decided to continue. Currently, unless something changes, he's going to reconsider his racing status in 2024. He's seriously looking to join the NASCAR commentary booth, so he may look to end his career when a new TV broadcasting deal occurs. Over his career, he's been called the closer for his tendency to steal race wins at the end unexpectedly, and also Happy Harvick as a bit of an ironic moniker for all the altercations he's had between other drivers. If he does join the broadcasting team, then all Harvick fans and Harvick haters could still expect to see him nearly every time they watch a race, and that should make some people happy. So first of all, if you use the Gregorian calendar, then Happy New Year's. And if you don't, then stay unique, friend. But really, thanks to everyone who watches, subscribes, likes, and comments on these videos. Not only does it help share them more on the web, but it helps to inspire me to keep wanting to make more, which means a lot. Now, of course, this video was about Kevin Harvick, an elder statesman in his series, and my next driver is one of those in his. However, if we go back to 2007, he was turning heads with a big overtake on reigning champion Fernando Alonso in a David versus Goliath situation. So take a guess for who's coming up next. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Driver Profiles.